Hello, I'm Ashley Brooks.
And I'm Ty Gowan.
And this is Unclouded, your source for the weekly astrological forecast and some cosmic chit-chat.
This week, the chit-chat's going to be weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about my parents we were going to talk about?
Oh, no, not about that. Your parents are delightful.
Oh, okay.
My topic.
Oh, I see. The topic. Yes.
It's like the non kind of like a culty one for a while.
Okay.
Like it's very, it feels normal and almost like Wonder Bready.
That's almost weird in and of itself.
We were making it weird.
Yeah, we're going to make it weird. So yeah, I was going to tell you a little bit about my parents' feral cats.
I think everyone should know about the colony at your parents' house.
Yeah, so my parents have been taking care of a group of feral cats for about a decade, I think 12 years now. And so there's been other cats that have come and gone, but they have around 20 to 30 cats at any given time that they care for. And they have built structures on their property for them. They have something called the cat house, which is a heated indoor shed that is complete with cat furniture and wall perches. And there are like a number of heated domes throughout their property.
Mm-hmm.
My parents have like heated mats on their porch that they maintain in the wintertime, lots of shelter. They feed them, they catch them and get them spayed and neutered or get them medical attention, and we'll release them again. And they've actually adopted out some kittens through. Yeah.
Our friend Krista has one of the, I think the first brood, right?
Yeah, from one of the earlier litters of kittens. Mm-hmm. She has Willow, who's a beautiful fluffy black cat. My parents, all three of their indoor cats were kittens from outside as well, because as much as they try to spay and neuter, you know, there's always going to be some that kind of slip through the cracks, at least until they can get it under control. So there are some kittens, but you have to catch them pretty quickly or else they can't be adopted.
Tell me about that.
Yeah,
like they just go feral really quick?
Yeah, so if you are able to take them in the first like 2 to 3 months, you can socialize them. Although sometimes they have some feral quirks. Like my parents' cat Stormy doesn't really like to be touched by anyone but my mom. So there's certain like feral cat quirks that they have. But it's interesting because with feral cats, every generation of cats that come, especially when they've been interacting with my parents for so long, become friendlier and friendlier because their parents kind of learn to trust my parents. Mm-hmm. And so the kittens from those litters will like every generation become more and more trusting. So now my parents, you know, at the beginning, most of these cats wouldn't even come near them. They would scatter when they would come outside. Now they have cats that will actually let them pet them outside. Cats that come in. They had one outdoor cat come in and sleep on the chair for the afternoon the other day. Oh, yeah. So it's a feral cat, but it will just come in and she'll interact with them.
I love like being over your parents' house, like when we meet up and go in the pool or whatever. It's very fairy-like because you'll catch glimpses of creatures out of the corner of your eye and then they're gone.
Yeah, they're like watching you, almost like the Kodama from Princess Mononoke.
Exactly what I was thinking, because it's like I have a memory in my head of just like being in the pool and looking out and like under a bush, there's just a cat face and you don't know how long it's been watching you.
Yeah,
but when you look back, it's gone.
I know. I always feel so pleased when I can walk quietly enough that the cats don't scatter. Mm-hmm. Like I feel like I'm doing something right with my life.
Have you ever found out where they go during the day? Like, is there like a nest or something like that where the feral ones are? Because your parents' house's yard goes back. Like,
yeah, they have a couple acres and they actually are in cliques. So there's a group of younger cats that are a couple of the newest broods of cats that hang out in the cat house during the day. Mm-hmm. Then there's some that go down to the the farm stand or the neighbors' stables that are down the way. So there's different groups. Then there's some that always hang out or on the porch. There's some that hang out like out front. So there's different groups and cliques of cats that hang out in different places. Yeah.
It's like little rival gangs.
Yeah. And for the most part, everybody gets along. Every now and then, like a male cat will show up and who might be unneutered or whatever and will like cause havoc amongst the colony, but then they'll move on or whatever.
So that male cat's not a member of like this continual family. It's just a wanderer in town almost.
Yeah, but occasionally it's so funny because a lot of the cats are either black, white, or gray, the majority of them. But every now and then they'll have a random male cat come in and impregnate one of the cats, and then you'll get there were like a couple orange cats that just randomly showed up because an orange cat came in and impregnated somebody, or there was a Siamese cat that showed up. So you'll get like variations of things that, variations of genes within the cat pool.
Well, good.
Yeah.
Because I think the cats did get a little thummy for a while, right?
Well, there were some definite issues. Some of them weren't surviving long, some inbreeding that was happening. But my parents have been trying their best to catch some of them. But the thing is, there were a couple that had so many litters that it actually becomes dangerous to spay them when they've had too many litters because it can actually, kill the cat. So
your parents have learned a ton.
Yeah, they have. My mom has always been somebody who has cats finding her wherever we've lived. Like that's completely normal. When I was growing up, we'd have neighborhood cats just coming into our house that like belonged to people. They just wanted to be around her.
God, your mom is a cog in the machine of the cat redistribution system.
Yeah, they love her. They find her.
Love it.
I think that's why I love cats so much.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. And my dad has become so soft and loving for cats. Like he's a big cat guy now.
The Admiral.
Yeah.
Love him. Well, that's awesome, Ash.
Yeah. So
good to hear that they're doing well.
They are.
I love their setup for winter too.
Yeah.
Now it's getting a little chillier out there. It's awesome that they have the heated outdoor cat home.
Exactly. They've got places to go and they are well loved and protected. So that's nice.
Perfect. So as we dip further into fall here, what's going on this week astrologically?
All right. So on Tuesday, September 24th, we have Mercury trining Uranus. So Mercury is currently in Virgo, trining over to Uranus and Taurus, and this is perfecting at 1:27 p.m. Eastern time, but we're feeling it throughout the day. And this Mercury trine to Uranus is great for coming up with new ideas, looking at a situation in a different light, coming at it and being able to, maybe like a problem that you've had for a while, you're able to suddenly see it from a new perspective.
Great.
So it can bring more solutions and it can help us to come up with new ideas as well. On Wednesday, September 25th, we have Mercury opposing Neptune, so another Mercury transit. Mercury is still in Virgo. It is at 28 degrees of Virgo, almost at the end, and it's opposing it's opposing Neptune in Pisces. This is happening at 7:06 a.m., but it's kind of coloring the whole energy of the day on Wednesday. Mercury opposite Neptune can make for really great, like fantastical or abstract thinking, really great for like stream of consciousness stuff, just kind of letting your thoughts kind of come out. Good for poets or people that are more kind of soft with their language, but it's not good for rational thinking, not good for like doing math or super scientific kind of detail-oriented
where there's only like one outcome type of thing.
Like you could make some errors or you could just get spaced out.
Is it good for like brainstorming events type of thing?
Sort of, but it's less productive, so it might just be like fun and abstract, but it might be harder to be like, okay, we're going to come up with a very solid plan. Like maybe you're coming up with ideas, but you're not like figuring out, okay, I'm going to write this chapter and that's going to come before this one. Like structurally, you know, that wouldn't be the best day for that.
Gotcha. Okay. So flow of consciousness type of thing.
Exactly.
Cool.
Thursday, September 26th, Mercury is trining Pluto, another Mercury transit for us at 12:14 a.m. Eastern time. And that is that detective aspect that we were talking about, the one that H.G. Wells had in his chart that we looked at last week. This helps us to look below the surface, to dig a little bit deeper, and it's really good for kind of thinking about life and like solving mysteries.
Love it.
Yeah, like digging into the unknown.
I love hearing that part of like the celestial forecast when it pops up during the week of just like, this is your mystery solving day.
Thursday.
Really cool.
Yep. And then Mercury is entering Libra at 4:08 a.m. Eastern time on Thursday, the 26th. It's going to be there till October 13th. So Mercury in Libra is very diplomatic. It's very peaceful. As you remember, Libras don't really like conflict. They want to solve problems. So this is really great for mediating, for finding common ground, compromise, good for all of that stuff. It's great for communicating with friends, being more social, and being more conversational and witty.
Even for introverts and stuff, like would it give you more power and confidence to do that?
I think so. I mean, it really depends on your own natal Mercury for sure. Like everyone's going to be different, but we are going to find that that's kind of the temperature of like social gatherings. Like people want to talk. People aren't going to be as closed off to you. So even if you are maybe a little bit more introverted. People might be more patient and wanting to like hear from you or asking you questions to draw you out.
To know where your own natal Mercury is, visit uncloudedeye.net and get one of Ash's readings. I highly recommend it.
Yeah, for sure. That would be great. I'd love to read for you.
Shameless plug.
So then finally, on Sunday, September 29th, we have the Sun and Mercury conjuncting the South Node all together. So
do we love the South Node or the North Node?
Well, we like them both for different reasons. The South Node is the past.
Okay.
It's what we've already mastered. It has to do with past lives, our past, our memories, our nostalgia, and what we feel comfortable with. Whereas the North Node is our destiny, what we're being pulled toward. There's some apprehension. It's unexplored terrain. So they're both kind of neutral. It depends on what you feel more comfortable with.
Yeah, okay.
So the Sun is conjuncting the South Node at 3:24 a.m. on Sunday. Mercury will join it at 8:19 a.m. And the Sun and Mercury are going to be exactly conjunct tomorrow, but they're kind of like approaching each other today.
Okay.
And they're contacting the South Node. So in this case, we might be more nostalgic on Sunday. We might be thinking about people we haven't seen in a while.
I see, because the past. And so that's how it plays in.
Exactly.
Okay, cool.
So the South Node is the past. We might be hearing from people we haven't heard in a while. It's a good day to catch up with people from the past. Or you might like find yourself just wanting to do something you loved to do when you were a kid, like watching one of your old favorite movies.
Yeah, or find that good thread of like products on TikTok that existed in the 90s that you forgot about.
Exactly.
Those, like, my favorite
I love that stuff. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Like just remembering like, oh yeah, I used to have that, you know, I saw this TikTok recently or this Instagram reel that was like that sour spray from the 90s that people used to just spray into their mouth.
Wow, I forgot about that. Until
Right?
now. Why would we do that?
I know, it's just like acid in your mouth.
Yeah.
But yeah, like
Made your mouth
warheads.
sour. Warheads candies, they're still around though.
Yeah.
The thing that I saw the other day that blew my mind of like the nostalgic candy is Orbit's drink. Do you remember Orbit's drink?
I do remember Orbit's. For anyone who doesn't know, it was like a clear kind of like soda juice type thing that had these almost looked like a lava lamp. It was like stuff floating in it that was like little balls, but it wasn't like a bubble tea.
No, it's not a boba. It was smaller and stranger.
And I remember being so excited when those came out that I was like 9 and I called a bunch of stores in the area and I found one that was in Biddeford. I made my mom drive me to Biddeford to get an Orbit's drink. And it was so gross.
Right? They remember them not tasting good.
It tasted like the liquid that fruit cocktail comes in a can.
Oh my God, you're bringing me back. That's exactly
but
right.
With chunks in it.
With chunks in it. So basically fruit cocktail in a can.
Yeah, but like that super syrupy, sweet, high fructose taste.
No discernible flavor.
Yeah, like it was really bad. But that was like the trend, you know, in probably like 96, 97.
And I don't want to deviate us from your forecast at all, but do you know what other nostalgic drink is coming back and I'm seeing it in stores again? Clearly Canadian.
I've been seeing that too.
It's so good. I had it again. It's like it brought me right back. And I was like, well, they didn't change the recipe at all. It's just back for some reason.
I was thinking about Fruitopia recently.
Oh my God.
I loved me some Fruitopia.
Sobe was where I was at.
Sobe. We had a Sobe machine at USM when I went to college. And I used to get it was like the yellow Sobe drink.
Sobe Energy.
Sobe Energy.
Yep.
That was my go-to.
That was mine too. Yep.
When I was in college.
Same here. I would get a Sobe Energy. And it was just enough of a bump. I think it had like Bull's taurine in it or something. Something I would not imbibe now.
Yeah,
you know?
no, it was probably no good for us.
No good. But I need to stay up.
In the early 2000s, that's what you did.
Yep. Sorry. Back to the forecast.
That was actually it. That's all I had for you. So we can wax nostalgic about some drinks.
I love that. Perfect.
Yeah.
Do you want to wax nostalgic about this topic this week? Because it's very nostalgic, I would say.
Okay. Yeah. Yes, absolutely.
So today is a loaded topic. And the reason why I called it white bread is because we're going to be covering the idea and also the inception of a lot of words, the concept of the American dream.
Okay. That's a loaded topic.
That's loaded, right? Yep. So before we dive into it, can I get your take on what the American dream is before I tell you what other people think it is?
Okay. I would say, from my understanding, the American dream is the idea that if you work hard, you can have or do or be anything you want to be in America underneath like a capitalist umbrella.
Wow. Yeah, I think that I align with you very closely to that.
Okay.
And I'm also going to tell you that that's not how it started.
Okay.
Which was interesting for me when I was researching. So let's dive in. A writer named James Truslow Adams gets credit for popularizing the phrase during the Great Depression. So obviously the concept was around before that, but this guy kind of labeled it.
Right.
So its intent seems to have changed dramatically over the last century, though, to what you just talked about. The original meaning of the American dream more so emphasized the drive for equality, democracy, and liberty, which kind of blew my mind because I've really only ever equated it to wealth and material objects.
Yeah, like keeping up with the Joneses.
Joneses, getting stuff, white picket fences.
Okay, all right.
So the idea is now that if you play your cards right, work really hard and follow the rules, you'll naturally climb society's ladder and have everything that you need, which is pretty much bullshit. I'm calling that out right now.
Yeah, that's, yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, like, this is what we're served as kids, and it's not real because it's like after high school comes college. If you do well at college, you'll get a great job. Once you get a great job, you'll be able to afford an awesome house. When you have an awesome house, you'll be able to start a family. And when you have a family, you'll work hard so that everything, like your needs are met. You get the white picket fence and there's fresh pie cooling on the windowsill. Like that's what we're served.
And maybe that used to be the case. It's just maybe not as feasible anymore.
And I think from what I was realizing, that maybe had been the case up until like the 1950s. Right. Because in reality, it's more like our generation got tricked into going to college that we couldn't afford because we didn't really know what we wanted to do in life. And that was like the thing that we were told to do.
It's wild that people are expected to like know between the ages of 18 and 21 what they want to do for the rest of their lives.
Well, I'm still waffling.
Yeah, I know.
You know?
I know.
Tons of stuff I want to do. And I really look at it like I went to college and I met some wonderful people and had some great experiences. But did college education set me up for the American dream? No, I paid it off my loans for 15 years. You know, like
exactly.
So just kind of like thinking about like so many people in the world are struggling to make ends meet now that I feel like the American dream as sold to us is also failing us.
Yeah.
So jumping back into or diving away, I should say, from like the human sacrifice to capitalism, I found a article by Smithsonian Magazine that I thought was particularly interesting that said the phrase the American dream was repurposed by each generation until the Cold War, when it then became an argument for consumer capitalist version of democracy, just kind of like what you said.
Right.
Our ideas about the American dream froze in the 1950s, and we've been unable to change that course since then. Mm-hmm. The article actually goes on a little bit further to say that the idea starts as a reaction to the Gilded Era in America, showing that amassed wealth was actually in opposition to the heart of the original American dream, saying that millionaires were fundamentally un-American and undemocratic because it highlighted inequality amongst the population. Would have loved to have stayed there. The phrase was also popularized by the man I mentioned before, James Truslow Adams, in his work, The Epic of America, where he was exploring what had gone wrong with America, citing that the Great Depression occurred because too many people had become obsessed with American wealth, and we needed to get back to the American dream. So again, we're in stark opposition of what we think it is now, you know?
Yeah, very different.
So the reason why I highlighted the 1950s here is that this idea had mostly been co-opted into something closer to what we know now around that time frame, and we forgot the emphasis of what communal equality meant to our country instead of focusing on how individuals could profit off of a free market in America. Mm-hmm. So more than anything, it kind of shows how ideals, even those that are like ingrained in the roots of a culture, can morph and change and unfortunately, in this case, corrupt a little bit.
Yeah.
So this took off a little bit differently than I thought. I thought we were just going to explain or experience what this means, but it kind of turned into researching how far we've come.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, I had no idea of like the original meaning of the American dream.
Right. It was always just kind of in the air, which is why I wanted to kind of tackle tackle it down and bring it into this conversation that we're having right now.
Yeah.
To see that it is kind of twisted, that equity was the American dream and now it's wealth, and we both kind of just naturally thought it was the latter,
right,
when its origins are so much better for us as a society.
Yeah.
The original American dream is something I can totally get behind.
That is a dream.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to find someone who's also credited with the popularization of the American dream for this week's natal chart, which I know you already figured out because you texted me, because when we've been talking about that goddamn green light in Gatsby's book, you went out and did what, Ash?
Oh my gosh. So after we talked about the Great Gatsby and we talked about how I used the example when we were talking about trines, he talked about F. Scott Fitzgerald and how his chart is nothing but trines. And so after we talked about that, I added his chart to my list of charts on my astrology program, and I was studying his chart because I found it interesting. So when I was looking at the charts that you had given me for the episodes we were recording today, I saw that this person had the same birthday, time, and place, but it was a different year. So I texted you because I was like, what are the odds of that they were born September 24th, St. Paul, Minnesota, 3:30 p.m., but just a different year? I'm like, that's weird. And so I messaged you and I was like, weird question. Did you mean to say 1896 instead of 1869? Because is this F. Scott Fitzgerald?
I remember just sitting at my computer when I got that text, and so sorry that I gave you the wrong date, because that would have absolutely changed.
That chart was rife with oppositions and squares. It would have been very off.
So I need to recheck my work more closely before I send it to you. But also, you being an astro detective and figuring this out like in reverse is crazy. So yes, we are doing F. Scott Fitzgerald today.
But that's okay that I know, because I'm really excited to talk about this chart. I just want to say this is one of the weirder charts that I've seen.
And finding out about his life and not just his works were all equally as weird. So kick it off and let me know what the stars have for him, and I'll let you know what Earth has for him.
Okay. So as I've mentioned on this podcast, but for anyone who doesn't know, trines, the astrological aspect of trines, are considered the easiest aspect. They bestow the person who has them in their chart with luck and good fortune and positivity. So you would think somebody with all trines in their chart would have a really charmed life. And that's true up to an extent. But the thing is that people that have trines, they're still getting transited by transiting planets, which are forming harder aspects for them. So when hard things happen, people with so many trines, because they're so used to things going well and going their way, they don't often know how to deal when things get hard. They kind of can't accept it. They don't even know what to do. And so people that have a lot of squares and oppositions in their chart, they might have to deal with more hardships in their life, but they tend to be more resilient. Like we saw the unsinkable Molly Brown had a Grand Cross, but she was so resilient, and that's what made her unsinkable. So F. Scott Fitzgerald is one of the only celebrities or historical figures I've been able to find who has this type of chart. That's not to say that there aren't any, but I have been actively looking, and this is the only one I've been able to find. It's much rarer to have more negative aspects in your chart than this. This is a weird, weird chart.
Gotcha. I'm excited to hear more.
It's one of the weirdest charts I've ever seen. So he has nothing but conjunctions and trines in his chart. So if you look at the chart wheel, it's all triangles. That's all we've got are the trines. So he is a Libra sun with his moon in Taurus, and he has Capricorn rising. So this is somebody that is very, very sociable. His sun, Mercury, and Venus are conjunct Chiron his Venus and Mercury are conjunct Chiron, but everything's in Libra in the 10th house, which would make him very sociable, very well-known, very much like aware of like the good graces of society. Like he would know how to like fit in those worlds.
Like Jay Gatsby.
Exactly. And even if he didn't necessarily always feel that way inside, he would be able to like fake it till he made it, you know? But with Chiron conjunct Mercury and Venus, there is like a sensitivity there too, but at the same time, everything is just so positively aspected that it would be hard to deal when conflict arose. I mean, he's a Libra. Libras don't like conflict. We know this.
Right. Oh my God.
So if there is conflict already, with the Libra, like he's not comfortable with that.
He already starts out uncomfortable and then
he has nothing to like show him how to process that. So I feel like the way that this would work out, because this is all hypothetical to me. He's literally the only case study I have for this. This is why I looked up his chart initially, because it's fascinating. Like, I feel like as bad things would happen, he would, at first be like, oh, whatever, it's water under the bridge. I'll let it roll off my back. But eventually it might make him crack, because it would be like, I don't even know how to deal with this.
Yeah. Well, since you already know who it is, like I'll pause you there to say, I'm going to share with you a story of a man whose life unravels. Like,
exactly.
Yeah.
He has a Mars-Neptune conjunction, which would make for a very imaginative person, but it would also make him very frivolous. Mm-hmm. It might be difficult to take like long-standing action that would better himself. Like it might be more like in the moment, like just for now type of things. Like this is really good for me now, but maybe not good for me in like 5 or 10 years. The Libra stellium, again, is going to make him very likable for the most part. People would be drawn to him. He would have a lot of friends or a big social circle.
Would they see him as a balanced person? Or would you not present that way?
Well, he's an interesting case study too, because he has his Sun and Pluto are actually unaspected.
Okay. Yeah, I saw that when you sent me the chart.
Yeah.
What does that mean? Like they are just not affecting him type of thing?
They're not affecting him. They're just not contacting any other planets in his chart.
Which is crazy for the sun.
They're
right?
floating. Yeah. So the sun is in his 10th house in Libra. So it's like near all that other stuff, but it's not. That would make him like the perfect Jay Gatsby. He's the outsider that's like observing everything. So he's there. He's at all the parties. He's like around people. People like him. They have no reason not to, but they don't really know him. They're not really connecting to him.
This is more fascinating than his life. I'm so sorry.
Oh, I know. Like, this chart is like, I'm so excited to talk about it. Like this is some fascinating stuff. With Pluto too, Pluto is loosely conjunct Neptune, but like I would say it's so far away that I wouldn't even really count it. So Pluto is just kind of hanging out there, which would make him there would be like a slight obsession with wanting things to be perfect.
Yeah.
Wanting things to be like the way that he expected them to be. And it would be really hard to go against that. His Jupiter is also at 29 degrees.
I was going to ask about the Jupiter.
Yeah.
Because, I've learned enough in this past 17 weeks that we've done this that I know Jupiter's excess, right?
Yes.
This is what the Great Gatsby is all about. Great Gatsby is a little bit autobiographical, like in a fantasy way, right?
I mean, he was in the roaring 20s. Like,
right. He's ripe for the time of excess. How is Jupiter affecting this man?
So he has Jupiter at 29 degrees of Leo, trining over to his moon in Taurus. So this is a person who likes the high life. They want, the party to keep going.
Yes. And on and on.
And on and on.
Yeah.
I mean, Jupiter is in Leo. Like he wants attention. He wants the party. He wants the fun, happy times. And when everything's good, it's really good. And when he's happy, he's really happy. But when the party ends, it's like, what is he going to do?
There's no substance behind them.
I would imagine he'd only feel like alive when the party's going. Otherwise, he would feel very empty.
God. That's so sad.
It is sad. It's really sad. And his Jupiter's in the 8th house too. So I don't know if he had to deal with a lot of death.
There's some death.
Okay.
It seems like.
I mean, everyone has to deal with death, but like.
It doesn't seem, but resurgence is an important part of life, but not for him.
Okay.
Like for us, we've dealt with death, and we have to keep going.
Right.
Like that's the purpose of being here. I can't say the same for, some things that happened in his life. It just seemed like he just tiptoed towards his own death in a way.
Yeah. I want to give a special shout out to an astrologer named Jeremy Neal. He wrote the article about this chart that I read when I was first getting into astrology, like 11 years ago when I was first becoming an astrologer. And this, like, it was almost over my head as I was starting out, but like this, I never forgot it. And that's what like made me think to look it up. So shout out to Jeremy Neal.
I'm so glad that I went with him then, because this seems like this is almost like closing a loop on something you began a really long time ago.
Yeah, this is fascinating to me. That article highlighted this chart versus somebody who had a really challenging chart.
Ready to dive in?
Yes.
Let's learn about some green lights across the lakes. So Scott Fitzgerald was born as an only child, and please interrupt me as you find parallels.
Okay.
Okay. So he's an only child, described as born to an unsuccessful aristocratic father. I'm not sure exactly what that means, but it didn't exactly set his family up for success.
Right. It's not like living in poverty, but maybe it's some of that faking it till you make it type energy.
Again, and I don't want to put this on him, but like perhaps living in poverty could have gained some skills, moving forward of survival. But either way, he grew up trapped in a life that promised what he would currently call the American dream. However, he was delivered just mediocrity. He described his American life as both vulgar and dazzlingly promising. Like that just sounds like his chart, right? And those are his own words. People labeled young Fitzgerald as having a romantic imagination and love for the promises of life, but not life itself. However, the life he lived growing up seemed to deliver the exact opposite from him, that losing that promise.
Yeah, this is like a dreamer's chart. It's not, there's nothing kind of anchored in reality.
It doesn't feel real.
Yeah, it feels like, it's all smoke and mirrors.
Mm-hmm. And he's living this life. Mm-hmm. So I read that he tried super hard in school and that made him unpopular. He attended Princeton where he began to write and integrate into the school's high society, and he even fell in love. Then he lost his relationship, and instead of rebounding, he flunks out of college. Upon trying to return to school in, I think it was 1917, he's disappointed by all that he's lost and does not make an effort to regain his notability, and instead gives up on school entirely and joins the army.
Yeah, that's so like trine. Like it didn't work out. Like somebody with a lot of squares would be like, well, I'm going to keep going if this is what I want. This is like, nah, if I'm not perfect at it right away, I'm not going to try.
Yeah, it didn't work for me. And even him, I tried it twice. And it's like, man.
If that's what you want, you got to keep going.
You got to keep going.
Maybe that's not what he really wanted. I don't know.
So, and again, for someone like this, I can't speak to what he really wanted because it just seems like a random series of events that happened through his life. And he's just floating from one to the other.
Yeah.
So
checks out.
After the army, he soon meets his wife, Zelda, which one fantastic name.
Yeah, she's a writer too, or she was.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And he begins to publish romantic books before he finally publishes a snapshot of the American life itself, the American Promise, the Great Gatsby in 1925. It's a commercial failure. Tell
that to our high school English teachers.
Thank you. Right. They love it now, but it's just like, again, his book failed.
Sad.
And so his joy then fails. Like he does not bounce back from that. Instead of bouncing back, writing another book, trying harder, trying to figure out why it was not a commercial success, he starts drinking instead. His wife and him distance. He doesn't seem to like, or they don't, I don't want to blame it on him. They don't seem to work on that relationship. She joins ballet instead, falls in love with ballet, and they start to drift apart. Drifting apart, the drinking gets worse. And in 1932, Zelda has a mental breakdown, which he blames himself for.
Yeah.
The biography article that I read quotes him as saying, "I left my capacity for hoping on the little roads that led to Zelda's sanatorium."
I just got chills and I want to cry.
That's so sad, right?
God, this chart just makes me so sad.
Me
I don't know.
Too.
I don't
After
know
you
why.
read that quote made me sad alone. And then like, I'm getting a little teared up after hearing the chart, just being like, this is your destiny,
But yeah, the thing is like, it's just, I'm curious. I kind of want to look at like what transits were hitting him around that time because it's just so interesting. Like with also Mars conjunct Neptune in the 6th house of health, like he could have been wanting an escape. Like drinking could have been like the escape.
It seems like it was his escape because he drinks more now.
Yeah.
So over the next decade, he descends further into alcoholism, and he tries his hand at writing again in a novel called The Last Tycoon. It's basically his attempt to portray and actively live the American dream the way that he'd always hoped for, and the way that he even hoped for his character Jay Gatsby to do as well. However, while pouring his heart into this final book, he passes away from a heart attack at the age of 44 because of his life choices.
Yeah.
So it's really truly a tragic life. And I honestly did not realize that. I thought that because The Great Gatsby is such a prolific book to us now, that this must have been like some Oscar Wilde type character who's living the big life frivolously, just, the charms. I thought he was Jay Gatsby.
Right.
And it turns out he kind of is, but not in the way I expected.
Yeah. And that he's like at the parties, but he's just not fully a part of the world.
It's almost a prophetic view of how his life is going. So I'm going to transition over now a little bit away from F. Scott Fitzgerald, because we're on episode 17, and we've been harping on this damn green light a couple times now throughout the series. Do you want to do a deep dive on the green light and move away from this chart a little bit?
Yes.
Okay. So let's do the deep dive here that every high school English teacher wants us to do. They've been jamming the metaphor down our throats for a while.
Wait, who did you study?
I had Hawkeyser.
Okay, yeah, because it was 10th grade.
Yep.
Mr. Panagakos for me.
Yep. Was it the same for you? Because I remember rebelling about this green light, and I failed that paper.
I mean, I loved the book. I really liked the book, but I did not see the need to fixate on the green light.
We're going to get into it real quick. So in the book, Daisy and Tom Buchanan live across from the bay from Gatsby and have a green light installed at the end of their dock to warn boats that the structure is there in inclement weather, as you do.
Right.
From there, the green light oscillates continuously throughout the book between just being a physical object to block the dock or to warn of the dock, and also a metaphor not just for envy, but for the American dream itself, the American dream of the time. So the first time the light is, and again, deep dive, the first time the light is mentioned, Gatsby is stretching for something that he can't quite reach. That's what the theme of this chapter is about. So knowing that Jay Gatsby is somehow the shadow figure of Fitzgerald, this is really true for the early stages in his life as well, just as it is for the early stages of the book. There's the metaphor. That's what our teachers wanted us to believe in.
Wait, Gatsby wasn't the narrator, right? Was it Nick?
It was Nick Carraway.
Okay.
Was the writer.
That's what I was, when I said he was like the Gatsby, I meant Nick Carraway. Like he's at the parties, but he's not like.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I meant by that.
But also the Gatsby.
Yeah, he's a little bit the Gatsby as well.
So the light shows up again in chapter 5 where Daisy touches it. It only represents a physical light here and nothing more. There's really no other show that it means more in this scene.
Yeah.
It's just establishing that it's there again. And I think where we land in a draw is the last mention of the light in the book is what our teachers want us to be. It's not just envy. It's so much more than that. And I'll just read this to you. So Gatsby is dead at this point. Daisy has left the bay. The narrator of the book, who is Nick Carraway, like I just mentioned, is thinking back to his time in the bay as well. And he says, Gatsby believed in the green light, the orgastic future that year by year recedes before us. It eluded us then. And that's no matter. Tomorrow we will run faster and stretch out our arms further. This is something that it seems like F. Scott Fitzgerald was never able to do. So he had the writer of the book, Nick Carraway, explain it for us.
Oh my God. I feel like that resonates so much more to me now than it did when I was 15, 16.
Same. I agree.
I didn't understand that.
That reading this, knowing his birth chart, and then reading about his life, then the birth chart, then this quote, I should say, like that left more of an impact on me than any book report I did in high school about this.
Yeah, his chart is so interesting. Like I feel like I'm only scratching the surface of it. It's really fascinating.
Isn't it?
Yeah, and that's just so sad. It's like the idea of the American dream, like you just keep stretching for it, and it's just always
a little bit further. And that is my conclusion on F. Scott Fitzgerald, The Great Gatsby, and The Green Light.
Well, I'm gonna go cry now.
Honestly, sorry I brought everyone down. Please listen to the Beyonce episode of this to feel better about yourself from Marie Laveau.
Yeah, no, it's okay. This was super fascinating, and sometimes it is going to be sad. So
this is real life, though.
It is.
Like, what a connection to see his natal chart play out in an unfortunate life that I really had no idea about
I know.
before I started researching this.
I know. Yeah, it's pretty wild. I'm going to keep looking for another chart that is similar in this, but I've had no luck thus far.
If you find one, we'll do a reverse episode where you just tell me who to research for you and we'll see how it connects again.
Exactly. We'll do that. That'll be fun. Or we can do one of the really challenging ones. The one, I found that original article that had inspired me by that other astrologer that I mentioned, and the difficult chart he had used to contrast this one was Jodie Foster.
Really?
Who has a very difficult chart. Yep.
Okay. Maybe we should just do her and see like what someone who's trying really hard and is just...
Well, she's resilient.
She's so resilient.
She keeps going.
Yeah. Jodie, did like the last season of True Detective?
I want to watch it. I have it on my to watch.
Phenomenal.
Okay.
She does great, and I'll just leave it there.
All right. I can't wait. All right, everyone. Well, if you want to know if your chart is also very unusual, you can come get a reading at uncloudedeye.net. I also do transit readings if you want to see what's coming in the months ahead for you based on where the stars are in the sky now. Or I do tarot readings as well. So those are all up on my website, uncloudedeye.net.
They're delightful. Unlike this episode, they're not a bummer at all.
Well, I mean, you don't know that. People could have sad charts.
Yeah, but still, that's delightful to learn about yourself.
And I'm going to deliver it in a way that isn't depressing. I'll give you tools to work with. If I had been able to give F. Scott Fitzgerald a reading, I would have been able to give him advice that might have helped him.
I hope you could have done that for him.
I'm
Because
just kidding.
from researching it, it seemed pretty dark.
It's pretty sad.
Yeah. Oh, man. Anyways, Ash, do we have anything cool on the forecast coming our way next week that we should look out for?
Yes, we have a new moon and a solar eclipse happening next week because we're still in eclipse season. So we're going to talk all about that. And let me see what else we have. I had a list here.
I can't wait to find out where that solar eclipse is going to be.
Yeah, the solar eclipse new moon is happening October 2nd. And we actually, and then the following week, we have Jupiter going retrograde and Pluto retrograde ending. So we'll talk about that kind of coming up in early October.
An excessive amount of retrograding going on right now.
Retrograding and ends of retrogrades, just...
Like Gatsby, it goes on and on and on.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, the planets never cease. They're always moving.
Love it. Well, I can't wait to join you next week. I hope I have a better topic to deliver for you.
No, this was great. I enjoyed it very much. I think this was a really cool topic. So
let's bring that American dream back to the 1920s version.
Okay, I mean, moving. It's the 2020s, which has been not the roaring 20s. It's not roaring at all.
No. But we're still fighting for equality now.
We are, That's nice.
Cool.
I mean, it's nice that we want that. Not that we have to fight for it still.
Yeah, exactly. If it could just be delivered to us like a trine, that'd be so much better.
It would be, but we'll keep trying.
But we're fighting for it like a square.
I know. All right, everyone. I hope you have a wonderful week. We'll see you next time.
Bye. Unclouded Eye stars Ashley Brooks and Ty Gowan. It's produced and directed by Nick Nordfors. Music is by Ashley Jane Cecilia and Jay Karen. Our community manager is Aaron Cross. Our art is by Dawn Aquarius. And The Unclouded Eye is presented by Haunt Me. Follow us at Unclouded Eye, at Unclouded Eye on Instagram and TikTok, and Unclouded_Eye on Patreon. Shout out to Jason Karen and Kat Z on Patreon this week. Thank you guys for supporting us.